We're number one.
Damn.
You heard it here first. Joe
Right,
Rogan
right,
listens
Joe
to our podcast.
Right.
Why do the gays get to pick what they get all the good stuff? This is ridiculous. I mean, went to prison for 10 years for stealing $46 million.
Not tell me he ate a booger.
Dude, he would have showed a little bit of cleavage. Maybe he'd have done all right. That's where we didn't have Facebook or Grindr. We
Are there a lot of girls on Grindr?
tasing each other in the nuts. Six people wanting to punch me in the face. How would you bite Santa Claus?
Let's do it. Come on. I'm ready. I'm ready. I want to do it.
Why? I'm not AI. I didn't do it. It'd be fine. She took an Adderall.
If you're gonna do it, read the instructions.
Mental illness is not an excuse for behavior.
We need help. I got a shot and some pills. That'll take that. Madhouse Bar Talk, baby.
Merry Christmas. Getting on, do a Christmas Eve episode. Just to get on and talk, just to give you an episode. Well, somewhat. I mean, I do have some. I mean, there's just so much going on. There's so much crazy stuff with the guy at Walmart, the young man at Walmart that frickin' the police took him in the back. He pulls a gun while he's in the security office area at Walmart. Pulls out a gun and aims it at a cop. Pulls the trigger. If you listen to the video real good, you can actually hear him. The trigger goes off. It just wasn't racked, so there wasn't one in the chamber. Sad, very sad situation. I mean, that could have been his life. In fact, honestly, that should have been that cop's life. If we're being honest, that was a mistake that God must have been looking out for him, because otherwise that's a mistake that's usually unrecoverable from. And unfortunately, that could have been something that could have never worked out, which hopefully it, doesn't turn out to, happen again, and he learned his lessons, and that'll be that. Hopefully that's the pray for that. But he was a young guy. I mean, literally getting caught shoplifting, had some pills on him, it looked like, or some sort of drugs that they talked about after the fact. I mean, you're going to take a cop's life because you're selling drugs and get caught shoplifting. And then what a piece of shit. So, and this seems to be the kind of level that the girls date anymore anyways. But they're like, well, we seen you stealing. And dude flat out's like, she was stealing. I didn't take nothing. And they're like, we saw you put it in the bag. What a piece of shit. Puts it in her bag, and then they get in there, and the first thing he wants to do is blame it on her. And then then he pulls the gun out, and it looked like it might have been, I don't know who it was, if it was a store manager or who it was, that really is the savior there, because he was trying to rack it to take a shot when he jumped on him, and it was just crazy. I mean, anybody, if you haven't seen it, if you go look at Walmart Canton, police officer almost shot. You can see what I'm talking about. It's a guy gets caught shoplifting, essentially. They take him in there. They're going to ready to send him home. They were just going to, give him a summons to go to court and send him on his way. But he gets in there, and he's got like one of those little, satchels, those side satchels that you put on your, that you see all the dope boys with. And he's got a gun in there, and they never check it when they bring him in there. So he's sitting there, and he literally pulls out the gun and pulls the trigger. But luckily there wasn't one in the chamber. You know what I mean? But definitely a bad situation. I know that's got to haunt that police officer, because it was a security guard, but he was actually an off-duty police officer working security there. So absolutely crazy. And I don't understand where you would just go, like you would take it from your shoplifting, maybe had some drugs on you, to murder of a police officer. Like what does it matter with you? Just don't even want, you don't value freedom. You don't value anything. Like, I don't understand. Like I don't know how you get to that level to where you think that that's okay, that like that there's nothing that matters enough, or I mean there's nothing, you just let me just do this. Absolutely nuts. I never in a million years have seen something that was that extreme, I don't think. Not that I can think of. But luckily it's a good outcome. I mean, he's going to probably go to prison for quite some time. The other thing around here is the kids, and we, for those of us who have kids, Dylan just turned 13. This was a car full of kids, 3 of them, 8, 11, and 12, and they steal a car. And they get up to like 80 miles an hour during the police chase. And they're from like Parma. I mean, they had that car on the road for a while. I don't know how, the police chase wasn't very long, but it said they were coming from Parma. So they had driven pretty good distance already at that point. And then the police chase them and they go over the bridge there and they're at like 80 miles an hour going over that bridge. I mean, it was absolutely crazy. And the one kid who's like, I guess the 8 or 9 year old or whatever he was, he's crying for his mother, and like it's just wild. And then they said on the news, they said that he was like, oh, Santa's not going to come. Like that's like, that puts it in perspective. He's so young. He literally believes in Santa Claus, but he's stealing cars. Like what? Absolutely nuts. And it's like, and I don't know how 8, 11, and 12-year-olds are out where they can steal cars. I don't even understand that. They hotwired the car, which was really, that's another thing that was even crazy, because when they hotwired the car, they figured out how to hotwire the car on a YouTube video. That's how they figured out how to hotwire the car, a YouTube video. They go on YouTube, figure out how to hotwire the car, and they're off and running. Wow. I mean, that's just crazy. It's absolutely insane. Why in the world why would YouTube worry about whether or not we say Oprah Winfrey is buying up Hawaii after it burned down, but go ahead and put hotwire car videos up. You know what I mean? Like, this is the problem with this. What they were doing. Obviously, it was more prevalent in 2020 with the, just basically telling you what you can and can't post on Facebook, YouTube, all the different places that they were telling you what they could post. And it's crazy because they have how to hotwire a car on there, but you weren't allowed to say that the vaccine might not be working. That's absolutely absurd. Where does that come from? Where does that, what, unbelievable. People's morals are twisted. It's really about if you're on this side or that side. Quite frankly, I think all vaccines should go to hell. I think Americans would be healthier without any of that type of medicine. I think that it causes more problems than it helps. That's my opinion, but I don't know anything. I have no medical advice or anything about that. But I believe that to be true. I personally, that's what I believe. Maybe whether I'm right or wrong, that is my belief. That none of it is good for you. And it shows in all these like things like this, like these kids that just can't function at work, that have autism, that even if they don't have autism, they have tics, there's a lot of weird things that go on that just didn't go on years ago. And it's just, I don't know, it's horrible. And then the pills that they want to put you on, antidepressants and everything else, having the whole society where they don't, think or care about it. It's like that Paul Harvey. Paul Harvey mentioned it. I think it was in the 60s or something. Paul Harvey did a thing and said, if I were the devil. I mean, I don't know how many of you have ever heard that. I could probably find it. Hold on here. I could probably find it. It's pretty remarkable, actually. I'll look for it while I keep on talking. But yeah, I think that the medicines that are in, the parents that allowed 8, 11, and 12-year-olds, there's an issue with you too. I know Lorraine just passed the bill where they're like, kids are going to be able to, our parents are going to be able to get in trouble for what their kids do. And it's a big thing. There's people that believe that. it's not fair or it's not. But at the same time, like, I mean, you got to keep your kids in check. I mean, I promise you, my kids, 8, 11, and 12 years old, weren't anywhere where they were able to steal a car. Just didn't happen. It never has happened, and it's never going to happen. There's a chance they could have snuck out in the middle of the night with my car, maybe, if they took my keys. But other than that, they weren't going to be, like, in Parma stealing cars 8, 11, and 12 years old. And there's got to be something. There's got to be a reason parents don't give a shit that they let their kids run like that. That there has to be, especially in this day and age. It's far too dangerous to just have your kids out and about doing whatever they want at any given time. And yet we see that it's happening all the time. Lorraine feels they have to combat it for the fact that it's just getting so bad out of hand. And that's a problem. Like, I mean, why are kids giving the run like that, like they were? When we were kids, you certainly had the ability to go out and about like that. Not at 8, and I don't think at 8 and 10 and 11, I don't think so. But, you know, as a teenager, we probably ran more than we should. Probably 10, 12, we probably were in a couple blocks of our house, but we weren't very far away. Definitely weren't in another city hot wiring cars, which is, it's just, it's unbelievable to me. It definitely is. And it doesn't make sense that the kids ever even got put in that situation at any point. And then the thing that really bugs me is that the courts waste so much time. During all this process, you have all these courts that are fighting these cases like Tony Viola, where he came out and, you know, they went after all these mortgage people because the supposedly defrauded the banks. The banks did they do their due diligence. Banks don't just loan out money without appraisals and things like that. They do their due diligence. And why is it that all of a sudden we have to spend our tax dollars to, you know, worry about the banks? And that's the kind of stuff that ends up in court. Meanwhile, we got kids stealing cars, and we have guys being left out on the street constantly that are not like the Ukrainian woman that was murdered. And it's so absurd, like who they let out, who they're harassing. Literally, there's people that have been charged with like molestation and are getting months. Meanwhile, Tony Viola is getting 10 years because they think as a realtor that he was dishonest when he filled out paperwork, which he wasn't even a mortgage guy. I don't even know how that even makes a difference. And I don't know why banks have to be protected. I still don't understand why the bank has all the protection and nobody else does. We certainly don't get protection from them, but we have to protect the banks. It's a wild, wild society that we're in today. I mean, you look at that the Reiner thing, where his kid's gonna file, you know, insanity charge. That's how he's just gonna plead insanity on, is what they're saying now, and it's probably true. But they're pumping the kid full of pills. He's probably been getting pumped full of pills his whole life. Probably had nothing wrong with them, but you had, you know, parents with insurance, and you go to the hospital and they gave them this, and then they give them this, and they give them that. All these murders always take place with people who have medicines in their body, antidepressants. And I don't understand if antidepressants are such a problem. This is just my take. You need antidepressants so badly. Where are all the crimes being committed? Murders and mass murders and school shootings by people that aren't on the medicine. If the medicine was helping at all, where are those cases? Because they don't exist. So there's a very serious problem there that needs looked into. Robert Kennedy needs to be on that, because that is the most important thing facing America today, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. That's the most important thing facing America today. Is that it's mental illness. It's not gun control. It's mental illness. And it's mental because I think of pills. People not feeling like themselves, it's going to happen. Sometimes you have good days, you have bad days. You work it out. That's how you work it out. You don't put mind-altering prescriptions in you to then let you feel okay with whatever is wrong. If there's something wrong, then you have to deal with whatever's wrong. And here's another case of Reiner's kid did this, and he's going to probably be out in a few months. They'll just be like, oh, well, he was on the wrong meds. What a shame. Lost both his parents, stabbed him to death or whatever. It's crazy. It's a wild, wild time in the world today with these type of things going on. And you have these disgusting people that are out here doing stupid things. Another thing that happened around here in Avon Lake, the Avon Lake woman that went to the police station and tried to file charges on revenge porn for somebody. And the cops basically told her, hey, you shouldn't be snapping pictures of yourself to someone. I mean, it's quite disgusting that a cop would say that. The law has been in place for 5 years. I guess I could give them some sort of leadway, I guess. But at the same time, I mean, just first of all, it's a lesson to anybody out there. If you're gonna share photos of somebody, you can go to prison for like 6 to 12 months. That's the law for revenge porn. That is the law. And by the way, it's kind of gross to do it anyways. You're just a bad human being if that's what you do. I mean, and I think that it's not okay that it's going too far. Laws are there to enforce morals, and sharing or revenge porn to people because you're mad at somebody, that is immoral. So the law is a good law. It works out. It's the way it should be, and I think it's great. And I think you're disgusting if you ever do such a thing. That's my personal opinion. But this woman has to go fight it. She has to go to court and fight it to get that to even happen. And there's been other cases. There was the president of Summa Healthcare in one of the cases like a year ago. I remember seeing something where he had done the same thing. Not with a patient, with like somebody he knew, just like revenge porn, like basically what they're saying, revenge porn. It's just immoral. It's bad. It's horrible. It's the way of the world today. Nobody wants to take account for anything they do. We walk around, we do things, we say, oh, they shouldn't have this, they shouldn't have that. But nobody ever thinks that they shouldn't have done something when they're the assholes who did it. It's pretty bizarre to me. It's absolutely bizarre to me. And it's, there's always someone to blame. They always look for someone to blame. Like Dave Chappelle on his special that he just did. He's, seems like he was pushing a very direct, I don't know what's the word for it, divisive. It was a very divisive message, It's a divisive message, and it's a racist divisive message that he puts out there on this special specifically. And I've always liked Dave Chappelle, and I'm not saying I don't like him now. I just thought that was a very divisive episode that he just put out. And I don't understand the purpose of a comic getting up and basically, I mean, he had about 5 times you could laugh during the whole episode. The rest of it was all basically him with his powerful speaking voice, which he does have a very powerful I mean, his voice is strong. People are listening to Dave Chappelle. They take what he says as, very strongly. And here you got somebody who goes out there and says very, very divisive things. Very, very divisive. And I'm not saying I don't disagree. When he says Martin Luther King was something way far greater than Charlie Kirk. Well, Martin Luther King was fighting a good fight. There's no question about that. And it was a fight that needed fought, and he did a great job at it. Made a larger impact, I would say, than Charlie Kirk did. But that being said, to young Christian fathers, I'm going to tell you, there's nobody else out there that's fighting for us. He was the only one out there fighting for that, for those values. And he was hitting the youth. You're seeing it. You think he wasn't all that powerful, but when you see all the young football teams that are using young Christian men that are praying on the ground or praying on the field, and he made a difference. And he wasn't, was he as big as Martin Luther King? Absolutely not. He was still getting started, though. He was only 31, 32, whatever it was. I mean, but you have pushed back. They've pushed back on Christian men so much, white Christian men specifically, but Christian men too, not just white ones. But they've pushed back on us so, I mean, to a point where you're just a bad person just for being white and a male, you know, and it's pretty bad. I mean, it's not a lighthearted thing. I seen it for a while. It's getting better. It has gotten better. 2021, it was real bad. It was at its peak probably right after COVID. It was pretty bad. It was the worst I had ever seen. Where we were being treated very, very poorly. And to that, I mean, you know, I get it. They're going to say, oh, now see how you feel about it, blah, blah, blah. Well, I personally never treated anybody of color any derogatory way. I grew up in a city where everybody of color were friends. We were all groups. We all hung out together, and everybody was equal. It's just the way it was. I was poor. I had friends who were poor. I had friends whose parents worked at Ford. I had friends whose parents had some money, and they were all different races. There wasn't no specific race of who was broke and who was poor, and we were just all kind of friends. And that's how I grew up. And that being said, you know, even, you know, the slavery days, there's a very small percentage of people that owned slaves. There was a whole huge country that was fighting for slavery to be abolished. There was a whole country that wouldn't do such a thing. There was a whole half the country, the North, in fact, where we're at, that had wanted nothing to do with slavery and thought it was horrific. So when you push it off on everybody and say they've done this or they've done that, it's just not right. And it's what has been happening, and it's a divisive thing that needs to stop. And Dave Chappelle going up there and pushing that and anti-Semitism, which I don't even know, that's bizarre to me, because my whole life, like the one thing we knew that anti-Semitism was something the Nazis did, and it was horrific. And there was these groups, you know, the neo-Nazis and the different Ku Klux Klans and places like that where it felt that way, but it wasn't the grand scheme of things. You know, now these people are walking around. You got Dave Chappelle up there saying, you know, anti-Semitic shit. Like, it's kind of crazy to me. I mean, especially when you're looking at a spot, and again, like I said with Dave Chappelle, when he says those things that are so divisive, the problem is that less than 8% of Americans ever owned slaves. You know, granted that they probably had the most money because they could afford slaves and things like that. The rest of them didn't, and then there was a large portion that fought for it to not even be allowed. So don't forget about that when you want to put out racist comments and things like that, and make things like that, like everybody did what some people did, which is it's a reverse racism is basically what it is. It's a reverse racism that's pushed back. And it was really bad around 2021, and it's gotten better. And I would argue that Charlie Kirk was one of the people that made that better. Charlie Kirk was a good man, a good Christian family man that believed in all races. He believed in everybody who says he's had hate speeches and things like that didn't hear what he said. They didn't listen to anything he said. He was not racist whatsoever. He wasn't anti-anything. He didn't hate anybody. Now, did he believe that by his faith, what some people were doing was wrong, and that they would be better if they didn't do those things? Yes, absolutely, he believed that. But that doesn't mean that he believed that he hated you because you did do that. He just didn't like that you did it, and wished better for you. And that's a wonderful man, and that's somebody who did it with nonviolence and just talking. So to say he's further away from Charlie Kirk, Martin Luther King and Charlie Kirk are so far apart, it's just not true. To the average American Christian man, that is just not true, because we are dealing with a society that has turned us evil. Paul Harvey, and I found it while I was talking to you. Paul Harvey warned us about this in 1965, and I'm gonna play it so you guys can listen to it. You'll see what I'm saying. This is one that I found. It's Ultra MAGA Party on Rumble. So I was just looked it up real quick while I was here. So I'm gonna play this one for you. For anybody who hasn't heard it, it's pretty wild and pretty spot on. So here it goes.
If I were the devil, if I were the prince of darkness, I'd want to engulf the whole world in darkness, and I'd have a third of its real estate and 4/5 of its population, but I wouldn't be happy until I had seized the ripest apple on the tree. So I'd set about, however necessary, to take over the United States. I'd subvert the churches first. I'd begin with a campaign of whispers. With the wisdom of the serpent, I would whisper to you as I whispered to Eve, do as you please. To the young, I would whisper that the Bible is a myth. I would convince them that man created God instead of the other way around. I would confide that what's bad is good and what's good is square. And then I'd get organized. I'd educate authors in how to make lurid literature exciting so that anything else would appear dull and uninteresting. I'd peddle narcotics to whom I could. I'd tranquilize the rest with pills. If I were the devil, I'd soon have families at war with themselves, churches at war with themselves, and nations at war with themselves, until each in its turn was consumed. And I'd have mesmerizing media fanning the flame. If I were the devil, I would encourage schools to refine young intellects, but neglect to discipline emotions, just let those run wild. Until before you knew it, you'd have to have drug-sniffing dogs and metal detectors at every schoolhouse door. Within a decade, I'd have prisons overflowing. I'd have judges promoting pornography.
We're talking about 8-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds. He's got over 600 images, gobs of video footage of these children. But you say this does not signal a heinous or egregious child pornography offense. And then you went on to say the defendant was merely trying to satisfy his curiosity. That's somehow a reason to only give him 3 months. Help me understand this.
Soon I could evict God from the courthouse, then from the schoolhouse, and then from the houses of Congress. I would lure priests and pastors into misusing boys and girls and church money. If I were the devil, I'd take from those who have and give to those who want it until I had killed the incentive of the ambitious. I would caution against extremes.
Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic.
I would convince the young that marriage is old-fashioned, that swinging is more fun, that what you see on TV is the way to be. In other words, if I were the devil, I'd just keep right on doing what he's doing. Paul Harvey. Good day.
So that was 1965. He gave you the playbook. He told you exactly how to do it, and everybody must have been listening because they're following his playbook right all along. And I've heard it. I heard that probably, I don't know, whenever YouTube came out sometime, probably like 2008, 2009. And I've planning on, talking about it. I wanted to talk when I thought today would be a good day. It's Christmas Eve. Tomorrow we're celebrating the birth of Christ, which I found out today, oddly enough. I found out today, which is so weird, that there are people that celebrate Christmas on January 6th and January 7th. Orthodox something or another, I forget. That's news to me. I never heard of that one before. I just found that out today. I was like, well, okay. That's bizarre to me. But either way, they're celebrating the birth of Christ, which is always a good thing. And it's sad because they're taking Christianity out of the schools. They take Christianity, they want it out of the family unit. They want the family unit. They want to convince women that they don't need men and that they can be the father and the mother. And meanwhile, they support, people in low income to keep the fathers out. They just support the women so that they don't have to deal with the father. And they feed, drugs to everybody so that they're okay with it. Everybody's on their antidepressants because they're upset or whatever it is, when most people probably are not happy with the situation that they're in. And if they didn't take the pills, they probably would not be okay with it, and they would make a little difference. I know my mother said one time they gave her some because she was working at Lorraine Products. And at the time, she was working on what was called an insertion machine. And the insertion machine would basically insert diodes into boards right here at Lorraine Products. Marconi was the company at the time. And my mother was, very proud of herself because she had reprogrammed the computer so that the mainframe that did the insertions, she had reprogrammed it. She had out of college, she had a programming degree, and she had programmed it so that she changed the sequence of it so that it actually inserted all of the diodes and none had to be installed manually. Well, there was quite a few people that worked in what they called manual, which was they had to put all the ones in that the insertion machine couldn't do on the line. And, people were kind of being mean to her because there was jobs essentially positions lost because she had done a good job when she was proud of herself, but it didn't much help that she was proud of herself because people were being mean to her. And they gave her something, and I don't remember what it is. It was one of those Zolofts or something like that. And she said she took them, and a couple weeks later, she wanted to drink. She didn't give a shit if she got fired from work. She didn't give a shit about anything. And she took herself off of them right away because she recognized the fact that it was doing that to her, to where she just really didn't give a shit about anything. And isn't that what we have? People walking around that don't give a shit about anything? That's just what we got going on. And so many are on it. I couldn't even tell you how many. I bet you, we could probably look it up real quick and probably tell us how many Americans are on antidepressants. And we can ask that real quick. We'll ask ChatGPT. How many Americans are on antidepressants? And the thing is they say that they're necessary, but yet nobody's out there doing these bad things that aren't on them already, which is what I find very, very odd. That's what I find very, very odd. Tens of millions of Americans, they're saying it's about 13%. 1 in every 9 adults, they're saying. So 1 in every 9 adults is on antidepressants in America. I thought it was way higher than that. I'm actually shocked by that. That is actually not as big of a number as I thought it was. But my point is that was my mother's experience, and I'm going on hers because I didn't take them. I wasn't going to take them, and I'm not planning on taking them. And I feel like I keep myself pretty even keeled in the process. But for all of those out there that are taking them and they're feeling depressed and they go and take them, there's an incentive for these companies to give them to you. It's a car. They get paid to do it. If they got paid the same thing every day, whether you took it or not, I would say you probably need it when they gave it to you, but I don't believe that's the case. I believe that they're making more money by giving them to you and by putting the whole world on them. And everybody's convinced that they need them to get by, and they don't want to get off of them, and they think people like me are crazy and we're ridiculous to even hint that that's a possibility, and it's a real possibility. In fact, it's probably the realest possibility. And then it's sad when you get these people that give advice and they got the big voice because they're famous, and they get to go up on stage and say things that are anti-Semitic, or, I mean, they push this narrative that's going ridiculously. And I just want to ask, I mean, how would you feel? What do you think America should do if Canadians crossed the border, walked into our neighborhood, kicked in the doors in that neighborhood, and started murdering everybody in the house? Just the neighborhood right next to Canada, just, came right across the border and just did that. And did it until there was about 3,000 of them dead that day. A whole big certified attack. What do you expect America would respond to that? How do you expect us to respond? Because personally, I mean, they hit a building with a plane and killed 3,000 people, and we went and leveled the Afghanistan. Just went in there and just wiped them out, and then kept on going. Went on over to Saudi Arabia, and or not Saudi Arabia, but Iraq. But I mean. And that was, everybody was okay with that response at the time. But for some reason, what Israel's doing is supposedly horrific. I'm not saying that the Palestinian people deserve it. I'm not saying that that's the case. But what is the thought process of you people? Is it like that Israel should have got to the same number, like say they killed 3,000? I don't know what the numbers are. Don't quote me on that. But say Israel lost 3,000 people that day when Hamas came in there and did that. That were they supposed to just go take an equal amount, 3,000, and then stop? That's what they're supposed to do for everybody out there who's anti-Semitic. What would you do if your sister was, or your brother, or your mother, or your kid, or you personally? What do you want the response to be? Because quite frankly, I don't think it was strong enough. Quite frankly, if it was me, I'd have leveled the whole thing, all of it, just leveled it. 1 or 2 bombs. I wouldn't have played it out as long as they did. That's what I would have done out of my head. But I'm an evil, mean person, I guess, whenever I get that way. That is something that is just beyond, that's beyond forgiveness. And everybody says, oh, they're so evil. They're so evil. They're so evil. There's all these people putting out false narratives that go on, and this is involved and that is involved. And, you've got these people that are, Nick Fuente is, pushing his hatred. And, Nick Fuente having a voice and these young people listening to him is a shame because, I mean, he's not as intelligent as you think he is. He's well-spoken. But he lacks any sort of credibility, in my opinion. Here's a man who doesn't have kids, doesn't have a wife, doesn't have a family. What does he know about anything? He doesn't understand. He hasn't lived life. He started preaching and spewing his garbage when he was like 18, 17. He's spewing it with no knowledge of anything. And what I know is I could tell you that there's not a person here that's the same person at 20 as they are at 30. There just isn't. Now, maybe there are some. I'm not going to say there's none. But if you run a normal Christian American life where, by 30 you're married and have kids and you're in your career, you're not the same person. They're not even a little bit the same person. So for everybody to be following this guy, it's a bad thing. We had a Charlie Kirk to listen to. Here was a man who was preaching love. He was preaching, for all the people that say he was not with the Jews or whatever they were saying about Charlie Kirk. The truth of the matter is Charlie Kirk felt the same about the Jews as he always did. He felt the same about Israel as he always did. Did he question Netanyahu? Well, that's something worth questioning. Netanyahu does seem to be somebody that should be questioned, but certainly not Israel, certainly not the people of Israel, and certainly not the revenge they took when they came over there and did what they did on October 7th. What they did was horrific. It was absolutely insane. It was disgusting. And the fact that I live in a country that I grew up in, that you walk around and most people are saying that it's okay, that you should be anti-Semitic after everything that's been through and everything Israel has had to go through to fight. In fact, the only reason that all of this is going on is because that they're anti-Semitic. That's why it happened. And now you're pushing it right here in America. You're pushing this anti-Semitism to a peaceful nation that tries to be peaceful and has been living in an era which, and I won't argue with anybody on that. I don't know that they should have moved them back in there in 48. I know a lot of the Christian people believe they did. I personally don't personally feel that they should have. I think we should have minded our own business. I think that's what we should do in most of the world, is mind our own business. And that includes stealing oil from Venezuela. I think we shouldn't be doing that either. That's blowing up drug ships that are on their way here. Yeah, go ahead. As long as you know there's drugs in that, get them. Taking the oil, I don't know. That's a little. I don't agree with that. I can't agree with that. That's one where you lost me. To me, that's just pirates, and I don't agree with pirates. But yeah, stay out of their business, and hopefully they stay out of ours. And also, don't allow them to come in and take over. I mean, that's essentially what's starting to happen, is that they're the Muslim extremists are trying to get in offices and push for Muslim beliefs inside of all of the system. And that's the sad part about that, is that Christians, when they're in office, Christian people, Catholics, whatever they are, when they're in office, Jewish people, they respect everybody's right to free religion, and they can do whatever they want with their religion, and they respect that right because that's what they believe. It's a peaceful transition. Now, will they try and talk you into becoming a Christian? Sure, absolutely they will. But they don't believe in deceiving you to become a Christian. They don't believe in deceiving you. They don't believe in lying and pushing a different narrative. And that's where I have a serious problem with what's going on when you see these states where they are doing prayer mosques that are interrupting the rest of the city that they're in because they're playing them over loudspeakers. And they basically want Sharia law is what they want. That's what they're going to go towards. And I mean, you see what happened in Iran. And they came in and they changed them from a nice, beautiful fashion hub of the world to now it's, Sharia law. Women can't do anything, can't show their face. They'll beat them, whatever, if they show their face. There's nothing in that other than just men that are disgusting and can't they just want to have the right to force their women to do whatever they want. And that's just absurd to me. As if they're not even human. And it's just a disgusting thing to me. The other thing that bugs me about the whole thing is that some of the Muslim women believe that if you show your skin, that men can't handle themselves. That's why a lot of them are covered up and they can't let men see them. We wouldn't be able to handle ourselves. We just wouldn't be able to handle ourselves. We would be uncontrollable had we seen their arm or their neck or their leg. We'd be uncontrollable. We can't control ourselves. I mean, it's absurd. It's absolutely absurd. And they're trying to push for it in areas in this country right now. And most of the people that are doing it came here after 9/11 by a lot. And everybody's defending them. And the people that are defending them are the ones that are going to lose their rights. That's the crazy part. The gays, the transgenders, the women, the blue-haired women, they're the ones that will lose their rights. They're the ones that if this happens, will have to bow down. I mean, that they're the ones that will lose everything if they do it. And they just don't seem to care. And it's like that there's a logic missing in the world today. And I don't know where it came from. I mean, you do get these stars like Chappelle, who comes up and says what he says. And we all love Chappelle. He's pretty funny. Even his special this time had some funny portions in it. I felt more chastised than comical, but we all like Chappelle, and then he says something and people listen. And if you relate to it more, say if you're a young African American compared to an old white guy like myself, you know, you feel a certain way, and it puts you in a mode where you're pointing the finger at someone else. And you end up with people like the crazy guy on the bus or train that should already have been in prison or jail that is stabbing a Ukrainian woman and saying, "I got that white bitch," you know? And let's be quite honest. The Ukrainian woman that just came to America had no roots of slavery. I promise that. So she had no roots in any kind of racism that may have happened in the 60s or anything. She had no roots in anything, and she paid the price because people are spewing rhetoric out there that's divisive. And when you have a big voice, you got to stop being divisive. It's sad to be divisive, and I hate it. I see it all the time. I see it from people that I love that say divisive things because they're just in that. That's the thing to do today, I guess, is to be divisive. And all I say is that it's Christmas right now, and any of you who want to be divisive, to stop being divisive, stop arguing, stop fighting, stop finding a reason to hate the other person, the other side. Stop yourself and think before you speak, because that's always good advice anyways. You know, they say if you want to keep a happy marriage, they say you say the third thing that comes to your head. You skip the first and second and say the third. You'll have a happy marriage. That's what they say. That sounds like good, solid advice to me. But it's probably true in the world, and that's what we need, because you've got all these people on the internet and all these stars and people that are spreading this hatred and divisiveness that's going on. And we were getting somewhere, I promise you. In the 70s, the 60s, the 70s, it was a little like that. When I grew up, it was the 70s, 80s. As I grew up, as I became a teenager, going into my teenage years, I started to see that racism was almost eradicated. It felt that way. It really did in my area. Now, I wasn't in Mississippi. I wasn't in Atlanta. I wasn't in New York. But here in Lorain, Ohio, the international city, it went from being something that looked nasty to something that was pretty much eradicated. And I feel that probably in this area, that's probably mostly true today, but you still are seeing people that post things and they blame things on race. You got to stop blaming things on anything, for one. You got to stop blaming. I mean, if you go in a bar and start a fight because you had too much to drink, that's your fault. That's what you did. You did that. You caused that. And the repercussions of it are your fault. That's your responsibility. You need to deal with that. That is the way it is. It's not anybody that's racist. It's not anybody that's out to get you. It's not somebody that's somebody else's friend. It's literally what you did, and you need to own up and face what you did and not blame anyone else. There's no reason to blame anyone else. But this is where we're at in the world today. Everybody wants to make everything they did somebody else's fault, and it's really it's bad, and I hate it. It's something that bothers me to no end. I'm the first person that fesses up to what I've done. I'm the very first person. If I did it, I say, yep, that was me, sorry. Of course, I also don't do things that are what I would consider bad, personally, usually. I mean, do I make mistakes? Maybe I get drunk and say something I shouldn't have. Yeah, that happens. You know, I don't know. I don't know what, I really can't think of anything off the top of my hand, but if I make a mistake, I'll be the first one to admit it, for sure. And I have flown off the handle. There's something I apologize a lot for flying off the handle. But for the divisiveness that's going on in this nation, everybody needs to take this season, this Christmas season, and not take this bullshit with you to 2026. Just don't do it. Just get rid of it empty it out, clear it out, be grateful for what you have, be grateful for where the country has came from where it was, be grateful for our opportunities in the future. I'm not saying don't criticize other politicians. I'm not saying that whatsoever. I mean, I'm but do it from common sense. That's what I'm asking. You know, everybody says that. You know what? Well, just now when we watched this Paul Harvey, they showed Joe Biden saying that Trump was extreme. And the truth of the matter is, Trump, when I was a kid, was about where the normal man was. That's all he is right now, just where the normal man was. And you guys are moving where the normal man is and then calling him extreme. That's crazy. That's absolutely absurd, because extreme seems like chopping off your weenus. Extreme seems like taping up your titties so nobody can tell that they're bouncing. Extreme seems to be shooting somebody because you don't like what they said. Extreme seems to be taking somebody to court on any possible thing you can just to do it. Just to get them in court so that you can say they have conviction. Extreme. These are all extreme. Extreme as judges ordering the federal government what they can and can't do from local circuits. That's extreme. To say that anything else is extreme is bizarre to me. Does Trump make the best decisions? I don't know. I don't know legally if he's allowed to do some of the things he does, like take the oil. I don't know. I don't know if he's allowed to do that. Is he allowed to shoot drug boats as they're coming to America? I hope so. I hope he's allowed to do that. I would like that to always be the case. I want that to always be what they do when there's drug boats coming to America. The idea that Trump is the one being extreme. Trump is trying to get us back on track. Trump is trying to get American manufacturing and jobs back intact. Trump is trying to get you away from thinking that you can make all your money off service fees, because that's the country we're in. It's weird because Jimmy Dean, for those that know me, that was a journeyman I worked with when I was an apprentice, also started my first company with me. I remember him telling me years ago that you can't survive as a service-only industry. And that was the mistake that they were making. And I forget if it was it Argentina? Which one was it that was becoming, I think it was Argentina, wasn't it? I can't remember. And that was the big problem they were having. I remember I didn't give a shit. I was like 21 years old. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? And then I slowly watched our country become a service-only industry. And it just can't happen that way. It just can't. I mean, if you don't make something to sell, there's no money to be made. You can't just sell services only. It's just, the money has to come from somewhere to buy those services. So he was right about that when he said it. And we watched our country become that. And Trump is trying to push back and get away from that. And we need that. People need to keep pushing back. Now, do you agree with everything he's doing? I'm not saying you have to. But when he's got to win and he's doing what he's supposed to be doing, get behind it. Don't turn against it just because his name was Trump when he said it. Because not everything that he said was wrong. It's just that simple. So that's my take. Please stop trying to be so divided. I don't want this country divided like this anymore. It's rough to watch. For those of you who were around on September 12th, 2001, you remember how great we can be when we stand together. You can. Now, I know that you have people out there saying that we were all being bamboozled and this and that. The fact of the matter is they flew planes into the building. That's what happened. For those of you that don't understand how the buildings fell, like Building 7, things like that, you just don't understand how jet fuel melts steel and twists it up until it freaking collapses. That's just all there is to that. That's a simple fact. It's the way it happened. Did we go into some countries that we shouldn't have be on false information? Possibly, yeah. But for everybody to say we were all misled and that Bush was misleading us because he just wanted revenge for his father. It's all bullshit. Look, this is where the division starts. The fact of the matter is what they did on 9/11. This country, we were united about getting revenge. And I expect that this country looked very similar right after Pearl Harbor. And that's the only thing I could think of. But I wasn't here to see it, but I suspect it was very, very similar. And I would hate for it to take something so catastrophic to see us get back together again and start to love each other and think on the same path and think what's best for America more than we think about whose side came up with the idea. So Merry Christmas to everybody. Not to get so heavy. Sorry about that. Just it's a holiday season. I'm ready to relax, but there's just so much on my mind that I just had to get it out. And I hope every one of you have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And we'll talk to you probably next year at this point. All right? Peace.
Why do the gays get to pick what they get? All the good stuff, rainbows, the first month of summer, apple martinis. I mean, this is ridiculous. I mean, went to prison for 10 years for stealing 46 million.
Do not tell me he ate a booger.
Dude,
To sell chicken and not have barbecue or ranch is the most arrogant shit I've ever seen.
you would have showed a little bit of cleavage. Maybe she'd have done all right. No, that's where we didn't have Facebook or Grindr. We had to go to Equifix if we wanted a girlfriend.
Are there a lot of girls on Grindr?
Chasing each other in the nuts. People wanting to punch me in the face. Why would you bite Santa Claus? Like, I mean, if going into space for 3 minutes makes her an astronaut, does that make you a gynecologist? We'll just make up a song for every individual person. For you,
People quit.
for me. Like, we'll have AI write it, you know?
Yeah, you're gonna have people quit.
Why? I'm not AI. I didn't do it. It's going to be fine. She took an Adderall. And my wife goes, oh, good. Well, then we'll be all right. I think people are smoking weed, ordering DoorDash, and playing video games.
If you're gonna do it, read the instructions.
What? Did you wear a skirt? Go ahead. I don't care.
My mom is 70. And then the next text said, and a lesbian.
I got swatted one time in handcuffs at Subway. They came in and arrested like the owner for selling drugs. You know what one woman's drama's worth? Can you imagine a whole fucking mansion of just drama? There's more Mattress Kings than there is Chick-fil-A.
Money laundering.
You piss a lot of, who do you piss off?
Mostly clients.
And he goes, look, some people go to heaven, some go to hell. And he just closed the door. Archie Bunker.
Archie.
That's who we need to make the rules around here. I promise it'll go too far.
Mental illness is not an excuse for behavior.
We need help.
I got a shot and some pills that'll take care of that.
Madhouse Bar Talk, baby.